Hello, and we are going to be starting the measurement and conversion unit. This is all about problem solving using conversions, different types of measurements. And what we're going to do in this section is start off with a 3-step understand, solve, and explain process. When you are reading word problems, which of course this course is going to have a lot of, we want to first understand the problem. So what does that mean? That means that we want to read through the problem, and you might have to read it several times. Word problems don't always come across right away as what you need to do. Think about what the problem is asking you to do. Draw some diagrams if you can. What should the solution look like? Sometimes it might just be an equation or a simple multiplication. Step 2, once you figure out the whole first part, which is understanding, write out what you know and what you need to know. Then you solve the problem. This is where you're doing step by step, double checking each step. And then 3, explain your results. I find step 3 is the hardest. Sometimes finding the number is the easier part, but then explaining what that answer means in context to the problem, that's sometimes the more difficult part. So you might say, hey, I got the answer. Okay, but what does that answer mean? And that's the hard part. Does your result make sense? So this is your 3-step process. Now, we're going to go down and start with an example and just jump right in using the 3-step process. So this says that you are buying 30 acres of farmland and at a price of $12,000 per acre. What is the total cost? So I look up here. All right, what do I know? I know that I need to buy 30 acres and it is $12,000 per acre. So what does that tell me? That tells me that I need to take, and it doesn't matter which way you write this, but I'm just going to go in order that we have. We have 30 acres and they are $12,000 per acre. That means for each of the acres. And I'm buying 30 of them. Then that means that the total cost would be $360,000. All right, let's try part 2, or not part 2, but B of a 3-step problem. This one has nothing to do with part A. A car travels 25 miles every half hour. How fast is it going? Well, if you think about how we talk about in terms of speed of a car, if you're driving on the highway, let's say you're going the speed limit and it's 65 miles per hour. Notice how I said that. When we talk about speed, we always do it in terms of per hour. This is in terms of half hour. Okay, so then what I would say is in 1 hour, the car travels. Now, if it's going 25 for every half hour, we know that there's 2 half hours in an hour, correct? So it would be 50 miles per hour because we would just take twice because what we're given is that it's every half hour. And so the car would be traveling 50 miles per hour. All right, let's go down to our next part. Now, what I have here, and these would be in your notes too, is a summary of just keywords for you to look at. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but that's for you to look over. But it's basically just giving you keywords. When I see certain, like if I wanted miles per hour, well, that would be division. Remember in the very last section of our critical thinking, we were looking at paper towels, and we wanted to see how many sheets, right, price per sheet. So we took the price divided by sheets. When you see the word of, we're usually talking about multiplication, raising something to the square or to the cube. These are just keywords to look out for when we are doing various word problems because we're going to be doing a lot of them. So we're going to jump down to example 2. How many crates do you need to hold 2,000 apples if each crate holds 40 apples? what am I given? We're told we have 2,000 apples, okay, and we need crates, but each crate holds 40 apples. So I need to figure out how many crates will I need to hold all 2,000 apples. Well, in that case, we're looking at 2,000 apples, and we would divide by how many can be held in one crate, right? So we got the total apples, one crate holds that many. So take 2,000 divided by 40, that's essentially 200 divided by 4, so that would be 50 crates needed. Now with word problems, I always like to label my answer again because we want to make sure that we're making sense with our answer. 50 crates then would be needed to hold all 2,000 apples. Example 3. All right, you are a grader for a math course. An exam question reads, Eli purchased 5 pounds of apples at a price of 50 cents per pound. How much did he pay for the apples? Now, on the paper you're grading, the student wrote 50 divided by 5 equals 10, so he paid 10 cents. Write a note to the student explaining what went wrong. All right, well, in this case, let's go back up here and look at what we were given, okay? We were told that he purchased 5 pounds of apples, and it was 50 cents per pound. All right, well, this is very similar to the very first problem that we did when we were looking at the acres. They wanted 1 acre, right, 30 acres, and we had the price per acre, so we multiplied. Well, that's the same thing we're going to do here. We have 5 pounds of apples, and each pound was 50 cents. That's a really good deal, by the way. So now we're going to take 50 cents, right, times the 5, and that means it would have cost $2.50. Now, I have to think, well, then what would I explain to the student? Well, they did 50 divided by 5. So what I would have said is that the student, must have taken 5 divided by 50. And so we would let them know that I needed to take the cents times 5. And that would be called test corrections. Now, this next page, nothing for me to go over, but this is for you to reference. I'm going to have a few of these throughout this chapter, just different notes. This is called easy metric conversion, and these are just different conversions for you to look at, like inches to feet. That's a very common one. Feet to yards, yards to mile, mile to feet, and so forth. But ounces to pound, we're going to be using a lot of this while we go through this course. So I have little charts up here, but there is one thing I wanted to put up here that is a cool website. I actually use this sometimes when I need to do my conversions, but I'm just going to write it on here. It's called unitconverters.net. So write that down, and you just go to unitconverters.net, all one word, and that is a great place to be able to just do conversions. So if you have a recipe, I know I recently had a recipe that was given to me in grams, and I had to put everything in terms of cups and tablespoons and teaspoons. So I had to rewrite, and it was also in terms of liters. So I had to convert so that I could do it in terms of what I'm used to cooking in. All right, so I'm going to go through this. I mean, we're not going to discuss this, but these are all the different things. We will be doing a lot of conversions in this chapter, hence the name, measurement and conversions. So what I want you to do is try to use that chart. You can go back to it and pause this video real quick and try these 4 problems. So I'm going to just pause for a second, but pause the video because I'm going to go right into these problems, okay? All right, so hopefully you did pause the video to try these on your own. It says 2 feet is how many inches? Well, we know that there are 12 inches in every foot, right, per foot. So I'm going to take 2 times 12, and that tells me that we would have 24 inches. Number 2, convert 102 inches to feet. Well, we just talked about how there's 12 inches per foot. Well, I'm going to go the opposite way as we did with number 1, and now I'm going to divide by 12 because we're going backwards, we're going to feet. And this would give me 8.5 feet. Number 4, 4 ounces is how many pounds? Now, I always know that there's 16 ounces per pound. So if I have 4 ounces, I'm going to divide that by 16 ounces. And that tells me that we have, and there's 2 ways you could write this. We get 0.25, or you might know that that's also a quarter of a pound. And the last one, how many seconds are in a day? Now, there's actually a couple ways you could do this. I'm going to break this down, though, one step by one step. I know that 1 minute is 60 seconds. And I also know then that 1 hour is going to be 60 seconds, right? Times 60 minutes, which is 3,600. And by the way, that was seconds. I guess I'll just write that underneath so we're not losing track of what we're doing. So we're looking at 1 minute is 60 seconds. So 1 hour would be 60 seconds times 60 minutes. And just in case, I like to be more detailed with my notes here, just in case you want to see what we multiplied. We did minutes and seconds. That way you can kind of see where we got the 60 times 60. So now we have 3,600 seconds. That's in 1 hour. There are 24 hours in a day. So I'm going to take 24 times the 3,600 seconds, and that's going to give me 86,400 seconds. Oops, I did not spell that right. Seconds in a day. All right, so 86,400 seconds in a day. Example 4. You want to carpet a room that measures 10 feet by 12 feet, making an area of 120 square feet. The carpet is usually sold by the square yard. How many square yards of carpet do you need? This is actually something I've had to do before. We were redoing our whole upstairs. We had to put in all new carpet, and it was sold by the square yard. So we first measured it by square feet, then we had to convert to square yard. Anyway, first thing we want to do is find the area, okay, of the room. And that would be 10 feet by 12 feet. So we would have 120, and be careful, area is in terms of feet squared. Notice we did feet times feet. That's like an x times x. We get x squared, we get feet squared. Next, we have it in terms of square feet, but we need to put it in terms of square yard. All right, let's look at it this way. I'm going to put a little note over here. So let me just change my color. We know that 1 yard equals 3 feet. Okay, so 1 squared yard would be 3 squared, or 9 squared feet. That's our little conversion that we can do. And that was just math. We went from basic, our units, to now squared. Oops, but notice I did not put that there. So there we go. 1 squared yard would be 9 square feet. Now we can convert. We're going to take the 120, okay, and we're going to divide that by the 9, and that will give us roughly, I'm just going to round, 13.3 square yards. And that would be how we would convert, and that would be our final answer. Now let's have some fun with some currency conversion. Now this is just a table. If you ever look online at currency conversion, it changes constantly, sometimes daily, sometimes even several times for the day. This is just a little snapshot, and we're just going to use this chart to help us solve a couple of these problems. So let's go down to example 5, and it says, at a French department store, the price for a pair of jeans is 85 euros. What is the price in US dollars? Well, in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to take and look for, and actually let me highlight that. So here we are looking at the French, or the euro, which is European. So the French one would be the European euro, and you're just looking for keywords here. And notice that it says that it is dollar per foreign. So we're going to look right here at 1.225. That is going to be what we're going to use for our conversion rate. What that means is we're going to take the price of the jeans, so 85 euros, and we're going to multiply that by the 1.225, and that's going to tell us what it would cost in US dollars. And by the way, when you are rounding for dollars, rounding with you using dollars and cents, round to the nearest cent. What I would put then is $104.13. So that's how I would do that one. Next, now this one, we have a gas station in Canada sells gasoline for Canadian dollars, $1.34 per liter. CAD is abbreviated for Canadian dollars. What is the price in dollars per gallon? Use the currency exchange rate in the above table and the fact that 1 gallon is equivalent to 3.785 liters. Now, I actually grew up by the border of Canada, so we would actually have to do that because the gas station would have everything in per liter, so we have to figure out what is that actually in terms of per gallon because that's what we were used to. So let me go back up here. Now, in this particular problem, we are looking at the Canadian dollar, and in that case, we're going to go up just above here. So for this problem, we're looking at 0.7828. And now we can focus on doing our conversion. So let's go back down here. This is going to be one step at a time. We're told that it's $1.34, right, per liter, but now we have to convert that. So we multiply it by what we just circled in the chart, which was 0.7828. And this is going to give us the US price per liter, and rounded to the nearest cent would be $1.05. Now we're not done. All we did is we just converted this to US dollars per liter. But now we need to find out what is the price per gallon. Well, we were just told that 1 gallon is equivalent to 3.785 liters. Well, now I'll take the 3.785 liters and multiply that by the $1.05 because that was per liter. This is going to give me now per gallon, and that would be $3.97 per gallon. All right, so first you convert into the US dollars, then we took how many liters are in each gallon. This is how the price per gallon, and then, per liter, this would be the price per gallon. All right, that takes us to the end of our first unit, which is all about problem solving, understanding, solving, and explain.